Welcome to the channel about news from around the world. While you subscribe and like it, we're going to start.
Germany is entering a period of political and economic turbulence, and the Alternative for Germany party is strengthening against this background. Mainstream politicians have nothing to respond to this. Concerns about Germany's future are growing, and with it the AfG. The party has set a popularity record in polls in Germany's formerly communist eastern states. It is now leading with about a third of the vote. The AfG is also gaining ground in the more affluent western part of the country. At the national level, the polls show it on a par with Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats. If this trend continues, the AfG will pose the most serious threat to the German political establishment. It then became the first far-right party to enter parliament since the Second World War. This dramatic U-turn came as a surprise to the party, which had been the subject of political obituaries in the German media as recently as a year ago, as it had seriously weakened in the general elections. This reflects the country's unease at the crossroads. In the post-war era, Germany has prospered for several decades. But it is now struggling to change its economic model, built on industrial exports, to a digital economy that is resilient to the effects of climate change and to competition from countries such as China. After being elected in 2021, Scholz's three-party coalition promised that it would lead Germany through a painful but necessary phase of transformation. Instead, the country is sinking deeper and deeper into uncertainty. At first, the coalition seemed to be succeeding against all odds. The Allies praised it for its promise to abandon post-war pacifism and begin strengthening the army. It was unexpectedly quick to find an alternative to cheap Russian gas, which accounted for almost 50% of German consumption. And then the country slipped into recession. Migration figures reached record highs. Within the ranks of the coalition itself, there is infighting and debate about how to return to the course Germany followed before the conflict. The AfG has enjoyed growing support mainly because of its criticism of migration. But it has now found new appeal as an advocate of a struggling class. The AfG is strengthened, although counterintelligence calls it a right-wing extremist organization, which allows it to conduct surveillance on the party. Its branch in Thuringia, where the meeting was held, is confidently called extremist by the security services. A month earlier, the AfG's youth wing had also been classified as an extremist organization, although this decision had to be reversed recently because its status case had been settled in court. In April, the head of the counterintelligence agency noted in his agency's annual report that 10,000 of the 28,500 members of the AfG are considered extremists. Nevertheless, a third of Germans now consider the AfG to be a normal democratic party. In Gera, with a population of 93,000, it is the most popular party. Stefan Brandner, the AfG representative in Gera, has shared the statistics, saying it is convincing that foreigners are involved in the killings and that they receive food aid. Political analysts say Germany's main parties bear their share of the blame for the strengthening of the AfG. Scholz's coalition has failed to speak convincingly about its plans for change, and has instead become mired in internal debates about how to implement those plans. Its mainstream conservative opponents, including Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union, are aligning themselves with AfG positions in the hope that this will help it win back voters. The CDU has adopted the AfG's hostile attitude to gender-neutral language and hardened its attitude to migration. Some Christian Democrat leaders are even calling for the right to asylum to be removed from the constitution. AfG supporters notice that their views are becoming the norm across the country, although rivals are trying to push the party to the margins of political life. This makes it even harder for mainstream parties to regain the trust of voters. Last week, the state-funded German Institute for Human Rights published a study, arguing that the language and tactics used by the AfG to achieve its racist and right-wing extremist goals should be used to ban the party as dangerous to the free democratic order. But such a proposal creates a new dilemma for the democratic society. The means Germany can use to fight AfG, considering it a threat, strengthen the conviction of the party's supporters that their country is not democratic. A difficult test awaits AfG and its supporters next year, when elections will be held in several states in eastern Germany. The party has a chance of winning the most votes. Meanwhile, politicians from the AfG travel around the country every week, talking to people at their news kiosks, holding dialogues with citizens and holding meetings in pubs, as if the election season had already begun.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested, subscribe and leave a comment.